Hey everyone, let's talk about the rules that apply if you want to work while collecting Social Security benefits. This is the earnings limit. And in today's video, I want to cover the rules that will be effective for 2023 and then answer some of the questions that I get asked all the time about these rules. Questions like, does the Social Security Administration look at single or joint income? What happens to benefits that are withheld if you go over the earnings limit? How is the earnings limit actually applied? When does the limit switch from an annual limit to a monthly limit? There's a lot of confusion there. Should you tell the Social Security Administration if you are over the limit or if you know you're going to go over the limit? Will the earnings limit affect spousal or children's benefits? And the big one, what actually counts as earnings? But before we jump into that, if you're new here, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss any of the new videos that we have coming out this year, because in the near future, we're going to start seeing a lot of changes to Social Security. This is not a maybe. It has to happen. And if any of it gets close to law, I'll make a video about it right here. Okay, so the way I want to approach this video is to jump right into the numbers that are effective for Social Security retirement benefits in 2023, and then I'll answer some of the big questions that I get all the time on this limit. Now, you want to stay tuned for these questions because this will be what ties it all together and makes it make sense. So before we jump into the earnings limit rules, there are two things you need to know. First, the rules we're talking about today only apply to Social Security retirement benefits. This is not for SSI and not for Social Security disability benefits. Those two programs have a completely different set of rules. The second thing you have to know is that these rules only apply before your full retirement age. Once you reach full retirement age, there is no limit on earnings. So it's pretty important then to know when your full retirement age is, because it can be different depending on your year of birth. And for everyone born in 1954 or earlier, the full retirement age is 66. And then for every year, it increases by 2 months until birth year 1960, at which point the full retirement age is 67. And under current law, that's where it'll stay. Now, with that background, here are the limits. If you make more than $21,240 in 2023, the Social Security Administration will withhold $1 in benefits for every $2 over that amount that you earn. The one exception is during the calendar year you attain full retirement age. During that period, the earnings limit that will apply to you nearly triples to $56,520. And the withholding amount on the dollars earned over that limit is not as steep either. For every $3 over the limit, the Social Security Administration withholds $1 in benefits. So that's the earnings limit, but that's a very simplified explanation that probably just left you with a lot of questions. So let's get into the ones that you're probably asking. First, does the Social Security Administration look at single or joint income? Well, most married couples are used to having all of their household income counted together in one big pot. For example, if you file your taxes as married filing jointly, earnings from both spouses are counted together to determine how much you owe in federal income taxes. So it makes sense then to wonder what happens if one spouse earns more than the Social Security income limit. How does that affect your benefits if you want to file early? Well, the simple but not fully complete answer is that joint income is not what's counted. The earnings test is an individual test. If you are married and each receive Social Security benefits from work that you performed, your spouse's excess earnings cannot turn off your benefit. As long as the benefits you receive come from your own work history, they are insulated. So for example, if your wife goes back to work, it may affect her benefit payment, but it won't affect yours. But here's where this can get a little tricky. If anyone is collecting benefits from your work and you have excess earnings, their benefit will also be affected. For example, if your wife is collecting a spousal benefit and you go over the earnings limit, both your benefit and her spousal benefit will be suspended, and the same for children's benefits. The exception to this is for an ex-spouse. An ex-spouse's excess earnings cannot affect your Social Security benefits. What happens to withheld benefits? If your benefits are withheld from the earnings limit, they aren't gone forever. At your full retirement age, the administration will run a calculation that's called the adjustment to the reduction factor. This says that your ongoing permanent benefit can only be reduced for those months you received a Social Security check. So the months where you didn't receive a benefit due to being over the income limit won't count against your reduction due to early filing. Here's how this works. When you file early, your benefits are reduced by a reduction factor. This reduction factor is 0.5% for the 36-month period immediately preceding your full retirement age, and then it's 0.512% for months in excess of 36 months. Now, if you want to average this for a little napkin math, you can say that each month of early filing will reduce your benefit by about 0.5%. Now, that's not completely precise, but it's close enough. So for every month you don't receive your benefit, that 0.5% is added back to your benefit when they do the recomputation at full retirement age. How is the earnings limit applied? Well, if you exceed the limit, the Social Security Administration will typically withhold several months of benefits at a time. For example, let's say that you have a monthly benefit of $2,000 and that you'll be over the earnings limit by $10,000. Well, with a withholding amount of $1 for every $2 over the limit, that means that $5,000 in benefits should be withheld. So they would withhold your benefit payment from January to March. And in April, your checks would resume. Should you tell the Social Security Administration if you are going to be over the limit? Yes, please do. If you know you're going to be over the limit, you do need to contact the administration and let them file a work report with the new estimated earnings. While this may result in your benefits being withheld, I can absolutely assure you, you don't want to get into an overpayment situation and try to unravel those nasty letters you'll receive from the administration. And look, some of those letters may not show up until 4 or 5 years down the road, and by that point, it's ancient history, right? And then you have to go back and remember what happened. Ultimately, most people just give up and give in and accept the word of the administration, even if it may not be right. So when does the limit switch from an annual limit to a monthly limit? Well, thankfully, the Social Security Administration does recognize that some people retire mid-year after they've already had earnings that were over the annual income limit. For these individuals, there is a monthly income limit. The Social Security website says that the monthly earnings test applies when an entitled beneficiary has one or more non-service months in a grace year. Here's what that means. In the first calendar year you receive Social Security benefits and have a month of earnings that's less than the monthly earnings limit amount, the income limit turns into a monthly income limit test. It will run for the remainder of that calendar year, but after that, it's back to the annual test. Your monthly income limit, if you want to calculate the amount, is simply the applicable annual limit divided by 12. Will the earnings limit affect spousal or children's benefits? Look, if your benefits are stopped because you're over the limit, it will affect your benefits and any benefits paid from your benefits. So if anyone is collecting benefits from your work and you have those excess earnings, their benefit is going to stop as well. So for example, if your wife is collecting a spousal benefit and your earnings exceed the limit, both your benefit and her spousal benefit is going to be suspended. And again, there is an exception here for an ex-spouse who's collecting a spousal benefit from you. If you go over the limit, that's not going to turn their benefit off. And then the big one, what kind of income actually counts as earnings for this earnings limit? And this is something that I'm asked all the time. While much of the ins and outs of the Social Security benefit system seem designed on purpose to be confusing, in this case, the Social Security Administration does make it fairly easy to understand for most types of income that's received if it counts against the limit or not. The most common types of income that will not count towards the income limit includes pension payments, most annuity payments, money from IRAs and other retirement account distributions, dividends, interest income, and capital gains. The income that does count against you when considering the earnings limit is gross wages from employment income and net earnings from self-employment. Plus, there are some additional rules on the time you spend in the business if you're self-employed. Now, that addresses about 90% of all of the types of income that exist, but there are numerous other types of income that can cause some confusion. And for a more complete view of these types of income, check out my video, The Social Security Income Limit, What Counts as Income. It's an older video, but it's still very applicable. I'm going to link that up and an article on the same topic in the description. So that covers the basics of the income limit for 2023. If you have questions, be sure to leave them in the comments below. I don't always get a chance to respond, but I do know there's a lot of smart people that watch my videos, and it's very likely you'll be able to get some help from one of them if I don't respond. And also, before you leave, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button and let the robots who run this system know that it has value and it needs to be shared with others. Thank you so much for watching.